Hello, my name is Laura Rainsborough, and I'm the Director of Food for All New Brunswick, la directrice d'Aliments pour tous NB. This is a re-recorded session from our Seedy Saturday event that took place on February 27th, 2021. Please note that today's presentation is being offered in English only. Normalement, nos webinaires sont offerts en anglais et français, mais cet atelier était offert en anglais seulement dans le cadre d'un programme avec plein d'options en anglais, français et bilingue. And so welcome, bienvenue de Lassie Gui to the first ever province-wide Seedy Saturday event for New Brunswick. Bienvenue à la toute première fête des semences à l'échelle provinciale. Food for All New Brunswick is a bilingual province-wide network that envisions a New Brunswick that is informed, connected, and engaged in food security for all. We support food movements in New Brunswick by sharing information and resources, making cross-sectoral connections with food actors, and by holding space for conversations on food issues. That's where we come to today with Seedy Saturday. And today's session is called Seeds Are My Superpower, which I think is true for many people, and particularly for Steph Hughes, who is our presenter today. When life hands you seeds, oh wait, no, that's not it. When life hands you dirt, plant seeds. Resilient seed systems are essential to food security and resilient food systems. So today's session will learn about the Bauta Family Initiative on Canadian seed security and the resources that exist to support ongoing seed knowledge and sharing. Steph Hughes has worked with the Bauta Family Initiative on Canadian seed security since its launch in 2013, bringing expertise in communications, facilitation, and program design. Steph has a bachelor's degree in international development studies from St. Mary's University and 10 years experience working in the nonprofit sector in Nova Scotia and internationally on land conservation, environmental justice, and regional food security. When she isn't helping Canadians make the connection between food, seed, and social change, Steph is busy hiking, swimming, and working towards her master's degree in adult education. So it is my pleasure to invite Steph to take over the mic and guide us through your presentation today.
Okay, thank you so much for that wonderful and energetic intro, Laura. I'm going to just share my screen here because I did prepare a few slides for us to go through. Great. So in my work with the Bauta Family Initiative, I communicate a lot with farmers and seed company owners and people who work with seed in kind of a very serious agricultural context. And I love that work. It's fun during Seedy Saturday season to talk to an audience that is a little bit more gardening focused and a little bit more into seeds just for the kind of pure joy and recreation that seeds bring to our lives. So it's really lovely to be here. Myself, I have only just begun saving seed. I've saved seed from 2 crops for 1 season. So I am very much a beginner. And so this session is not going to be a technical how to save seeds presentation. Instead, what we're going to talk about is 3 key questions that we all should ask ourselves before we even put a seed in the ground. We're going to talk about those questions. I'm going to refer you to some really amazing resources that are going to help you find your answers to those questions and put you on a path to seed saving in 2021. So I'm excited to do that, and I think that we should dive in. There we go. So these are kind of the 3 questions that I want us to work with today. Why do you want to save seeds? What seed will you start with? And where will you source your seed? And these questions are not just for total beginners. I think in a way we get started with seed every season. And over time, our answers to these questions might shift a little bit. So it's worth kind of taking a pause this time of year as we're starting to think about our gardens and just kind of go through these questions. So question 1 is, why do you want to save seeds? So are you saving seeds mostly for your own use so that you have a good supply of the seeds that you love? Are you hoping to share the love with your neighbors and maybe some friends who you know garden informally? or you may be aspiring to sell seeds commercially. The question of why you're saving seed is going to inform basically every aspect of your seed saving. And I put it first because your end goal is going to determine the standard to which you aspire in your seed saving. And there is, in fact, a double standard when it comes to seed saving. So let's take a minute and talk about that. This book by Seeds of Diversity Canada outlines that double standard very, very effectively by talking about community versus commercial seeds. So if you are kind of hoping to save seeds that you use yourself or share informally with a few friends, the community standard of seed saving is going to be really adequate for you. When it comes to seed saving, there's a lot of really technical and complicated rules. But if you're just doing it on the community scale, you don't need to be too worried about all of the technical rules. If you can tolerate an occasional mistake and learn from it, if you can tolerate an occasional cross, for example, in your seeds, and if you're transparent about how those seeds were grown so everybody knows what to expect, you can save seed year after year, share it around, communicate about how it was grown, and nobody is going to mind that at all. You'll have a ton of fun and it'll bring a lot of joy. If you're aspiring to sell seeds commercially, there is a higher standard of seed production that applies. So in Canada, the commercial seed sector really relies on trust. Gardeners and farmers who buy seed expect that seed to kind of perform at a certain level. We're looking for quality and purity out of the seed that we buy. We want it to germinate. We want it to be healthy. We want it to look like the thing it's supposed to look like. And so that means when you're growing that seed, you need to pay a lot of attention to things like isolation distance, plant population, selection, roguing, disease management, germination testing. There's a lot of steps and a lot of things to do to make sure that the quality of your seed meets that commercial expectation. There's a lot of resources that can help you get there, and there's no reason to not aspire to that. But knowing where you are right now and what you're capable of right now is going to help you have a successful season and help make sure that trust in the commercial seed sector stays intact. So this is kind of the first resource that I want to surface to you. I call it the best $15 you'll ever spend. It goes through basic seed saving principles, taxonomy, crop by crop how to clean and process your seed, how to germination test it. It's an amazing resource. I have a copy of this book that I got in 2013 when I started this work, and this is what it looks like. It is completely falling apart. It is highlighted and underlined and dog-eared, and I use it every single season for my own kind of work in the garden and also for my work in our regional seed bank. It's a wonderful resource. So you can find that at seeds.ca/books, and I recommend that you do. Moving on to our second question, what seed will you start with? This could be the presentation that takes all day, really. There's so much to dive into here. I would say under the umbrella of what seed will you start with, you want to think about your experience level. So some plants are very, very easy to save seed from, and other plants are much more difficult to save seed from. So if you're an absolute beginner, or if you're just kind of starting out on this journey, I would recommend, for what it's worth, to look for annuals and plants that are self-pollinating. So examples of plants that are both annual and self-pollinating are, this is not an exhaustive list, but beans, peas, lettuce, and tomatoes meet those criteria. So when we talk about an annual plant, we mean a plant that goes to seed every season. When we talk about a self-pollinating plant, we're talking about a plant that will literally pollinate itself. And what that means is that you don't need to worry a whole lot about cross-contamination of your seed. You don't need to worry a whole lot about isolating your seed-saving crops from other crops that might cross. They're easy crops to save seed from and great for beginners. If you're a little bit more advanced or maybe feeling adventurous, you could try outcrossers and or plants that are biennials. So outcrossers are the opposite of self-pollinating plants. Outcrossers include squash, melons, cucumbers, corn, sunflowers, all of the plants in the brassica family. There's a lot of outcrossers out there. And because these plants require pollen from other plants in order to set fruit and form seed, they're more at risk of cross-contamination from plants in the same species. So if they get cross-pollinated, it would just result in contaminated seed in your next season. So it's that seed is not going to grow exactly the way you want it to. If you save seed from an outcrosser, you need to use strategies like big isolation distances or physical barriers or even hand pollinating to try to make sure that that seed will grow pure. And there's lots of strategies to do it, and it can be really fun. It's just a little bit more complicated. Biennials, which are also outcrossers, are plants that only go to seed every 2 years. So these include carrots, onions, cabbage, rutabaga. There's lots of biennials out there. And they're challenging just for the fact that they take up so much more time to get to their seed production cycle. So not only do you need to kind of get them through that first season where you can eat them, but then you have to dig them up out of the ground and find a place to store them and keep them healthy over the winter, and then replant them in the spring. And then for the next season, as they go to seed, they're very big plants. So you also need a lot of space. So biennials can be really fun. They can be a wonderful learning experience, but they're probably the most complicated plants you can save seed from. So choosing the right seed for your skill level is going to give you a better chance of success, and success is motivating. So we want to be successful. So beginners, think annual and self-pollinating. If you want to get a little bit more complicated, you can do annual and outcrossing. And then if you're really feeling adventurous, try a biennial and see how it goes. Also, I think it's important to save seed from plants that you like to grow and that you like to eat. Because if you don't like growing a plant, you're not going to love saving seed from it. You think about the time that you spend growing your garden. When you're seed saving, it's even more time, energy, and attention to get those plants from the perfectly ripe for eating stage to the perfectly ripe for seed saving stage. So you want the right motivation to get you through that kind of end of season, so that you can successfully harvest and clean the seeds. So I like to save seed from things that I kind of already have a sense of how to grow and that I want to eat, because that's very motivating for me. And then finally, you're going to want to grow seeds that will grow true to type. So when you save seed from a plant, you want to make a plant that looks like the plant it was harvested from, ideally. Not all seeds will give you that. What you're looking for are open pollinated seeds. And the easiest way to describe that are seeds that are not hybridized. So hybrid seeds, which are sometimes described as F1 or first generation, will not grow true to type the following year. So if you want open pollinated seeds, you can look in your seed catalog and avoid the ones that are described as F1 or hybrid. You can look for heirlooms or heritage seeds. All heirlooms are open pollinated, but not all open pollinated seeds are heirlooms. There are newer varieties of open pollinated seeds that would also be suitable. I think that the best thing to do is simply contact your seed provider, let them know what you're looking for, and take a recommendation. That brings us to the second resource that I want to kind of tell you about. It's called the Community Seed Network, communityseednetwork.org. This was launched, I think, in 2018, and it's a beautiful kind of seed-focused web platform designed for the community seed gardeners and organizations of Canada and the US to get together and share and network and learn from each other. So the website includes all kinds of resources to support beginner seed savers all the way through to advanced seed savers. There's support and networking for seed organizers. So if you're involved with a seed library or a community seed bank or a community seed saving garden, there's tons of resources there about best practices, and you'll be able to find other people in your community and across the continent who are doing similar work. The Community Seed Network has a very passionate, active Facebook group. And so once you join the Community Seed Network, which is totally free, you can put yourself on the map, see who else is in your community, see who else is in the world around you. And then you can also join the Facebook group, which has over 1,000 members. Tons of ideas are getting shared, tons of initiatives are being talked about. It's a really wonderful kind of social media space. And then your login for the Community Seed Network also works for the Seed Savers member Seed Exchange, which is Seed Savers exchanges in the United States. and their members are able to share seeds with each other directly. And so you can get access to all kinds of weird and wonderful varieties of seed that you might not know about. The platform is totally bilingual. Membership is free. And I would really encourage you to check it out because it's probably one of the best resources that I know of for people who are interested in seed saving at the kind of backyard or balcony garden sort of level. So I hope that you will check that out and enjoy it. And then that brings us to our third and final question. So this is one of my favorite questions because it's one of the most complicated. Where will you source your seed? So this question speaks to your priorities and values as a gardener, as a citizen, as a seed saver. Do you want seed that was grown organically, ecologically, or is it just okay if it's untreated seed? Those are three different things. Do you want your seed to be well adapted to the area that you grow your garden? Does it matter to you if that seed knows what that climate is like and is designed to perform well there? Who will take your seed order? This is kind of a new question with COVID-19. Some of you may have noticed that some of the larger companies in Canada and the States have big notices on their website saying that they're only taking orders from farmers. That's because we're dealing with seed shortages. And so that's a good move for food security. But for gardeners like you and me, if we don't already have our seed, it might inspire a little bit of panic of like, where am I going to get my seed? There's lots of people who will still take your seed order. We just have to find who those are. And then finally, what seed system are you engaging? So we'll get into these questions in a little bit more detail. And I think let's start with that. What seed system are you engaging? So when we buy food, we're aware normally that we're engaging a particular kind of food system, right? If we go to a big box grocery store, for example, we're aware that we're getting apples from Chile, spinach from California, oranges from Florida. We're engaging with a global food chain, right? If we go to a farmer's market, that chain becomes much shorter because we're engaging directly with the person who grew the food. And if we go to farm gate, or if we get a CSA basket, or if we grow our own garden, then the food system that we're engaging is as local as possible, right? Well, it's the same thing with seeds. When you buy seeds, you're engaging a seed system. So if seeds for you are kind of the thing that you pick up off of the rack when you're at your local department store, that's kind of the equivalent to a big box grocery store. That's a global seed supply chain. The company that provides the seed to that rack, even though it's in your neighborhood, is a global company. And that seed comes from all over the world. And there's nothing wrong with that. We all depend on trade in our lives. I have a lovely cup of coffee here that I'm enjoying. That, I can't get that locally. So trade is not a bad thing. But there are great benefits to engaging more local seed systems. You have the opportunity to support local companies, and you have the opportunity to benefit from and support local seed. But that's where it gets a little bit complicated because local companies and local seeds aren't always the same thing. They're not always available in the same place. So there's lots of seed companies in Canada, and those companies all use different models to sell their seed. So let's look at what that looks like. So in this kind of seed business model slide, we're setting aside the rack at the hardware store. That's kind of the system we've already talked about. Now we're looking at seed business models that engage Canadian companies. And as far as I can tell, we've got about 4 categories that we can look at here. We have companies that sell the seed that they grow exclusively. We have companies that sell the seed that they grow, but also source seed from contract farmers in the region. Then we have companies that sell what they grow, what they contract regionally, and then also what they import from outside of Canada. And then we have companies that sell primarily or exclusively imported seed. There's nothing wrong with any of these business models, but knowing the differences between them are going to help you find seed that meets your priorities as a gardener. So for example, it is very important to you that your seed is certified organic, and that's a lovely priority to have. That's a regulated market, just like with food. So Canadian organic seed has this kind of Canada organic sticker on it. It's got this label so that you know that that seed was grown according to certified organic practices. That's a really good thing to know about. If you don't need it to be organic, but you would really like it to be local, that's not, it's not a consistently regulated thing. There isn't a single label that is going to tell you this seed was grown locally and is going to be adapted to grow well in your garden. In the Atlantic region, we do have a sticker that is voluntary, and it's on your screen there, proudly grown in Atlantic Canada. And lots of seed vendors in Atlantic Canada will use that sticker as a lever to kind of talk about the seeds that they grow and why they grow them. That's regionally adapted seed. So if you buy seed with that sticker, you're most likely engaging a local system and a local farmer who knows that seed intimately. They've worked with that seed over the course of the whole season, maybe many seasons, maybe many, many years, and they can tell you everything there is to know about that seed. Sometimes that label is going to be on certain seed from a company, but not all seeds. This is where we get into the kind of contract situation. So companies that engage other growers in their region do that sometimes so that they can provide more variety in their catalog, because maybe they only have space to grow so much seed, but they want to provide more variety than that to their consumers. And then some folks import seed because they want really high quality seed, and some crops are hard to grow for seed in Atlantic Canada. Not impossible, but just difficult. And so they want to grow seed that was done to the highest standard, even if that means sourcing it, you know, from a BC company, because they grow carrot seed really well in BC because the climate is different. So there's all of these different seed business models that you can engage when you decide to buy your seed for the season. And there's a couple of resources that I'm going to surface for you that will help you kind of do this. So the first one is a directory of Atlantic Canada companies and seed sellers. It's a combination of farmers and larger companies. Go to acornorganic.org/local seed, and you can browse by province and by seed company. Every listing has a little description, has a way to contact them. So you can go to their website, see their catalog, and they will tell you how to order the seed. If they don't have a website, it might be an email address or a phone number or whatever. That is a comprehensive directory of Atlantic Canadian seed companies. There's only one that we're missing, and that's Revival Seeds, and we're working on that now. The other way that you can source is a national database of every seed company in Canada. It's organized by Seeds of Diversity Canada. So you can go to seeds.ca/seedfinder. And this is a really cool tool because you can search by crop, you can search by variety. So if you're looking for a very specific blush cherry tomato and you know that variety name, you can pop that into the directory, and the directory will tell you if anyone sells that seed in Canada, and how to find it, which is amazing. It doesn't tell you if that seed is locally grown. And again, this is another piece we're working on because there isn't a lot of transparency in the seed industry about where seed comes from, right? But the seed finder, so you can search by crop, by variety. You can also filter for just organic seeds or just seed companies in your region. And then once you've done that, once you kind of have a sense of who you'd like to buy your seed from, the best way to find out if it's local is to ask them. If locally grown seed is important to you, just let them know that and ask them where their seed comes from. Many companies will know that and will be able to tell you, and others won't exactly. And that's okay too, because that gives you information. If it's very important that your seed was grown in Nova Scotia, there's lots of companies in Nova Scotia that will be able to help you. So the best policy is to ask. And then as seed companies get that feedback from consumers, they're going to get a sense of like, oh, this matters to people. You know what I mean? And over time, that can really change an industry. So there's no bad choices here. It's just good to know what's what so that you're getting the best seed to meet your needs. So that's our third question, our final question. And I think that's everything that I have for you. So thank you again for giving me the opportunity to talk about this a little bit.
Steph, thank you so much. That was a fantastic presentation. Thanks also for sharing your contact information so folks can follow up if they have questions. And the website for seedsecurity.ca is there as well. So that's fantastic. Thank you. We're also going to share some other resources in the description for this video. like the links to the books that you have in your presentation, for example. I love how used your book is, that first one that you shared. My goodness, the page is falling out. That's a true testament to your love of this subject. So thank you for sharing that with us today, for your time and your willingness to share your knowledge. Some of the resources, as I said, will be linked in the description. Food for All NB also has other ways for folks to stay engaged. We have a resource directory on our website. There's also a gardening page that is kind of focused on food gardening, as well as we have a Facebook group focused on New Brunswick food gardening. And there's also the YouTube channel here where you can subscribe and stay in touch. We've got a gardening playlist on our YouTube channel. So there are lots of ways people can stay engaged. On behalf of everybody who's watching this video, thank you so much, Steph, for your time, and on behalf of Food for All NB as well. So that is a great start for folks looking for seeds this year and beyond. We wish you all the best of luck with your home gardening adventures. Steph, any last words you want to send of hope and optimism out to folks today?
Nope. I hope everyone's doing great and happy growing. Thanks so much for including me in this. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. And though this is a re-recording, I want to wish you all a happy Seedy Saturday.